Hola, mi gente. Good morning. This is Julio with his daily chats. Been out for a couple of days, I would say, maybe 5, 6 days that I needed just to do some personal stuff with family, um, straighten up some stuff at the house, and some personal stuff. So now I am ready to continue to finish some of the stuff that we started because one of the things about the campaign that we did for CD-15 was that we knew the chances of actually doing what people think it was a race for, which is to win the actual position. We were clear from the beginning that our chances of winning the actual position was minute, but we believed that it was important to run to be able to raise some issues that we felt others were not going to raise. And we're very successful in that, to the point that we've even gotten compliments from very conservative people saying that they thank us because they felt that my campaign running for Congress raised issues that, as one person put it, it brought a new level of issues to the campaign. A lot of the issues were the stuff that we all progressive people would like to hear, which is when it comes to immigration, on DACA, on keeping kids in cages, on the Green Dream Act, on the border crossings, on open borders. When it came to criminal justice system, of course defunding the police departments and getting those military armaments away from the police, and I mean all the things that housing, you name it, everything that we talked about were definitely things that we would have definitely supported anyway. But we always took it a step further. We took it to another level. And that's what we were intending to do, especially on the issue of the poverty in the South Bronx, which is way beyond what any of the candidates, including those who claim that they lived there for as long as they said they did. The fact that I've been living there since 1956 and that I still live there, that I live, in a situation that, most people won't even consider because I constantly walk the streets. So some people say they live in the South Bronx, but what they do is they really sleep in the South Bronx. They don't do a lot of the things that normally we would do on a daily life in the community in which they live. I do. And because I do, I was able to walk the streets more than I normally would. And I was able to get a lot of information across to a lot of people. Unfortunately, a lot of that information doesn't trickle down to a vote. And that has a lot to do with the poverty in our community. If we were able to talk to everybody that we did, that was 100% convinced because they've never seen a person walk through their streets, whether it's at that particular block or at that particular time, or to take the time to talk to them in a particular area that they've never seen a politician. Like many people told me, sí, lo vemos por aquí. They come by in a truck sometimes or in a car and they're waving, but they don't stop. Como nos tienen miedo. And they'd say, pero usted es diferente. And if we would have had all those people vote, we would have had a much larger number of votes. But the fact is that that's the issue of poverty in our community. A lot of people who definitely love what we were doing and saying, that doesn't trickle down. And it doesn't trickle down for a lot of reasons. A lot of it is next day, you don't know what happened with that family. You don't know if they were able to actually work, had to go work overtime. They didn't feel well. There was problems in the house. There was problems with the kids. There were problems in the issues. There were problems in the jobs. And they just don't have the interest in terms of going out of their way to go vote for someone that they saw the night before, a week before, or a couple of weeks before, and they remember that, hey, yo le dije a este hombre que I was going to vote for him. And that's the issue of poverty. It's not so much the issue of apathy, that people just don't care, that they don't want to vote. That's not the issue. The issue is one of poverty. And that's one of the issues that we wanted to address in the South Bronx campaign for CD-15. And also another issue we wanted to raise that nobody else raised, which was the issue of Puerto Rico. And the issue of Puerto Rico, especially the issue of the Jones Act, and the fact that this ridiculous law that does not allow foreign vessels to dock in Puerto Rico unless they go through some ridiculous financial issues that they have to pay, or bureaucracies that they have to go through, as opposed to just dropping the stuff off in Jacksonville, Florida, and there it gets unloaded and then reloaded on another ship, to which then that ship can come to Puerto Rico because it's a U.S. carrier ship, cargo ship. But then again, who's paying for that? And I got to tell you, the times that I do go to Puerto Rico and I go shopping, and anybody who does not go as a tourist to just go and go to restaurants and go to the beaches, but those people who actually go to Puerto Rico to live for a little bit and they have to go to a supermarket, to a regular store to buy something, and you'll know what I'm talking about. The prices in Puerto Rico are ridiculous. And that has a lot to do with the Jones Act. The fact that, we're paying for the fact that close to more than 85% of everything on the island of Puerto Rico gets imported. That's a monopoly. But I believe that there's even more than a monopoly. I believe that the amount of guns that are in Puerto Rico, the amount of ammunition that's in Puerto Rico, the amount of, drugs that are in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico does not produce cocaine. Puerto Rico does not produce, coca. We have bananas, we have mangoes, we have beautiful, fruits and vegetables, but you can't grow coca leaves here. The amount of drugs in Puerto Rico is ridiculous. The fact that there are so many guns in Puerto Rico does not have not one factory that produces guns or bullets. And the amount of guns and bullets that are shot off in Puerto Rico is almost like if it's so easy to buy a pack of bubble gum. And if it's that easy to buy bullets, like a pack of bubble gums, then you ain't have no problems wasting them, right? Because you can get them. But where are those bullets coming from? Where's that drug coming from? It does not coming in from tourists through the international hotels on maletas and luggage. I believe that has a lot to do with the docks, those big containers. And that's where a lot of the stuff is coming through. So when we go up against the Jones Act, we're not just going up against the law that's in Congress that we want to pass, but there are forces behind that law, whether they are underground forces, military forces, forces that would love to have that many guns in an island so people can shoot themselves. And I know this sounds crazy, but listen, if you know history, that's why I'm glad I'm a history professor. Because if you know history, you know that these things have happened in the past. Yes, the government that we call the government that's supposed to protect the people, the CIA was responsible for dumping heroin into the communities of color back in the 60s. Yes, the community that we believe in, as a democracy, has done some incredible, unlawful things to people of color. And that's why I'm so glad that the Black Lives Movement, woke up thanks to, George Floyd, and the fact that that's become a world movement, not just because of his death, but what his death represented. The fact that that was a legal, lynching by police who thought that they can get away with it. And that has changed a lot. And there's more that I'm going to talk about. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you guys and let you know about what I'm doing lately. Our campaign is not going to be one of those campaigns. If we would have won the actual congressional seat, which we knew that was a pie in the sky, but we wanted to raise the issues, we would have done the same thing we're doing now, which is we're going to continue to educate. We're going to continue to have forums on a monthly basis. We're going to continue to have these chats, because the most important thing that we learned from this campaign, which validated what we've always known, is lack of information, lack of education. The real details, the data that our community needs is not there. And poverty is the main problem with that issue. There, in Puerto Rico and here in the South Bronx. So that's why I am going to continue to do things. And I just want to let you know that these chats in the future, I'm going to talk about, for example, the experiences of CD-15race. For example, the history with Serrano, his years in Congress, how I first learned and met Serrano back in 1973, I believe it was, his assembly tenure. I'm going to talk about his run for borough president that people don't know about, which made history. I am going to talk about being his chief of staff. I'm going to talk about my resignation, why I left his office. I'm going to have chats on the election results, that money actually does buy elections. And the situation with Richie Torres is one of them. And the fact is that it's okay that Richie Torres wins, right? So what do we do now? Those are chats that I want to have. Who did not win? Blake, the unions and their agenda, Diaz Sr. and his conservative agenda, Viverito, in terms of her tenure of being the second most powerful woman in the city, and now, not even being able to get a decent amount of votes in the Bronx, in an area that supposedly she represented, but we kept on saying she really didn't represent. Samelis, in terms of getting AOC and Bernie's endorsement. Newsom with Black Lives Matter. And the other candidates that came out for the first time, like me, basically unknown, no major support, but they did, raise some issues. So I'm going to talk about that. I want to talk who did win, the people who were able to get some stuff out of it. I believe we won in major ways because we made some major inroads in terms of meeting people, getting to know people. Uh, we developed our liaisons with organizations that we didn't have before. And for example, the issue of Puerto Rico. Oh my God, the contacts that we made in Puerto Rico because of the fact that we were raising an issue that no one had ever raised before, where we had gone to Puerto Rico to ask for, advice. What should we do if we were to win in Congress? What should we do in terms of running for Congress? What are some of the issues we raised? And we did that months ago. We did that like about 7-8 months ago, before we even decided to run. And people in Puerto Rico, major people in Puerto Rico, key people in Puerto Rico respected that so much. So we raised the issue of the diaspora in the United States and the population in Puerto Rico to another level, a total new level, which is going to be good for the island. It's going to be good for Puerto Ricans in the United States. And I'm going to talk about that in the future, at the chats. I'm also going to talk about how we won. We expanded and elevated the network of resources. The fact Black Lives Matter was raised to another level, thanks to Newsom and the work that she did. The work that we did with young millennials, man, that came to for the first time, and also people that had never participated in electoral politics before, and they now participate in that one. And made it very clear. They said, listen, I don't participate in electoral politics, but for you, and thank you, which means that at least some people had the faith and the respect of the work that I have done for almost 50 years in the South Bronx, to recognize that that was enough for them to say, you know what, I'm going to get involved in this campaign. And I know they're not going to get involved in other campaigns, and I don't think neither am I. But the fact is that we were together, worked on issues that we were all proud of. We advanced the concept of Puerto Rico, like I said. We talked about the fact that Puerto Rico being a colony, and the fact that everything is being raised in Congress, not in the Fortaleza. So that issue was raised not only here in the South Bronx, but also in Puerto Rico when we had the press conferences there, that we appeared everywhere. The responses we got from people were incredible, saying how there was a refreshing remarks that I was making in front of La Fortaleza that will appear on all the news stations about a Puerto Rican that was interested in giving Puerto Rico a vote in Congress, but also the Puerto Rican that was against corruption, and a Puerto Rican that was not pro-party politics. In fact, the only reason I was running as a Democrat is because if you don't run as a Democrat in the South Bronx, you can't run, period. And in Puerto Rico, if you don't run in one of the parties, which is, el Partido Nuevo Progresista, the Blue Party, or el Partido Popular, the Red Party, you basically don't get into office. The PIP Party, Green Party, has some issues, in terms of getting involved by having a senator here and there, but the main parties are those two. And just like the United States, the Republican and Democratic Party, what's the difference? So we're going to talk a little bit about that in future chats as well. I'm going to talk also about COVID-19 changing their lives forever. I don't know if you guys have noticed the impatience, the traffic, the people with no patience whatsoever, the tempers flaring, the violence. Where's all that coming from? We want to talk about that as well. I also want to talk about the fact of the perfect storm that's making people afraid in New York City. The number of shootings that have been taking place, and people who are basically saying, I'm tired of New York and they want to leave. Is that part of a plan to force the gentrification that's being done right now in New York City, particularly in places like the South Bronx, with the number of guns that are coming into Puerto Rico, like I mentioned, the number of guns in Puerto Rico, that creates all this violence, and it's like heightened fear that people have. People even talking about almost this is just as bad as back when we were in the 60s and 70s in the South Bronx. So, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the issues of gun violence. I'm going to talk about the issues of how the CIA was involved in certain issues in our community to help destroy it, like I mentioned. So these are the many things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about electoral movements, what's next after the elections. Most people die, even people that win. People that won elections and they move on and they're talking about a whole bunch of other stuff, but they're not doing anything to organize in their community the way they should. And some campaigns, they don't make it, it basically dies off. Well, not this campaign. This campaign, on the contrary, cogió más fuerza. No echamos para atrás ni para coger impulso. You know, if you don't understand that, go translate that, because that's exactly what we mean. We're moving forward. We're moving forward stronger. We will continue to have forums in our community on a variety of issues affecting our community, and no apologies. A lot of those issues are going to be talking about Puerto Rican issues. We're going to start I would like to start a Puerto Rican roundtable. I want to talk about the issues of the Latino community in general, but we have to understand the contributions and the fact of how the Puerto Rican community developed what it had in New York City, with the Mecca, in being in the Bronx, and where it's at today. And how did it get there? Why is it that we don't have that power today? How did that happen? It's important to understand that. So we are going to have those forums. We're going to remember history, because we cannot forget it. And my biggest project coming up, and that one I'm going to say it, and I've been saying it, is that I am going to work my butt off, and I'm asking anybody who wants to work with me on this other particular project, aside from the Jones Act, which is a project for Puerto Rico and for United States workers, is also the fact in the South Bronx, we're going to have, and I'm going to work it hard to have a salsa museum. We need that. And that's one of the projects that I'd like to start working on. So these are some of the things that I just wanted to say. This is a long chat because I wanted to give you an overview of the agenda items that we're going to talk about, so you can stay tuned to this channel. I'm going to do it through my YouTube channel, and then of course I'll post it on Facebook. But if you want to get this directly, you just go to my YouTube channel, Julio Pavon, and you'll get it. But these are the things that we're going to talk about in the future. God bless you all, because I said from the beginning, there is a revolution, and this revolution will be televised.